Welcome back, and we are moving into our second conversation for today as we're joined by international yoga instructor and global ambassador for Rhythm of Change Belize, Sofia Araujo. And she's here to tell us about some upcoming workshops that she's having in yoga and women's health. Good morning and welcome.
Good morning. Thanks for having me.
Thank you for being here as well. So let's start off by finding out more about Sofia. This is your first time in Belize and Central America, and I'm sure it's a great experience so far. But what have you been doing, and what's led you here?
Well, I just arrived a couple of days ago, so I come from Portugal, which is a long flight. Yeah. And so I've been resting, and I've been walking on the promenade on the beach.
Wow.
And I love the food here so far, and I'm looking forward to explore more. I heard Belize has beautiful nature and diving, which I'm looking forward to do. Yeah. But the reason why I'm here is to work in the project of my friend and colleague, Michelle Williams. She's the founder of ROC, Rhythm of Change, which is a charity that works with developing potential and growth using yoga, mindfulness, and awareness in unprivileged communities. So that's the main reason why I came here during this time.
And tell us about your own experience and background as a yoga instructor.
Yeah, so I've been a practitioner for 16 years of yoga. And I have a school for the last 10 years. It's an international school, so we teach all over the world.
Yeah.
Mainly,
so you teach teachers?
I teach teachers.
Okay.
Wow.
Yeah.
And so mainly in Europe and Asia, and we're looking into expanding to Central America.
It's right here.
So it's right here. So I also came to check out what's the yoga scene here and in Mexico.
People, we've had so many yoga shows on here, and as a matter of fact, we've tried. She's showed me a few poses. But in order for folks to catch on, because we want for folks to catch on, what's the importance of yoga? Like, what does yoga do to an individual, to your body, to your mind, to your spirit? What does this do?
In my experience, yoga is an awareness practice. Is really to expand your awareness, expand the awareness of your body, expand the awareness of your, what kind of thoughts are you having, and how does your body and mind relate, and are you aware of that, or are you in autopilot going through life? And so I feel that yoga is such a great tool to expand our awareness so we can be more present and be more in touch with what's going on in our internal world, and how do we expand that internal world and manifest that internal world into the external life.
16 years and going, what got you into it?
Curiosity. I'm a very curious person, and since I was very little, I always did body practices, like through dance, gymnastics, and but yoga was different for me. Like I went to my first class just because I was curious. What
kind of class did you go to?
I went to a hatha class. I was actually turned away because I was late. And I was like, interesting. So it was more like, it's a discipline, right? And so it requires a certain attitude.
Of course.
And my attitude definitely got adjusted in being late.
Yeah.
And and
what got you hooked?
Sorry?
What got you hooked?
The fact that it was so difficult, that was one. That was a real challenge for me. And I never really worked with the movement and breath together. And so I found it really insightful, actually. And so I just kept going. And I practiced for 4 years, and then I did my first teacher training, not because I wanted to teach, but because I wanted to immerse myself in it. But after, it's just, people started asking me to teach, and so that's how it started.
Just from seeing the topic here, and I'm sure there are a few women who are questioning, what can it do to my health? And then you're here to actually roll out with this workshop, but then women's health?
Yeah. So after these years of practice and teaching as well, what I realized is that 90% of the people that come to class are women.
Yeah.
And I'm also teaching a tradition that was taught by men to men. That's kind of how yoga was spread and developed. And I realized that actually, if most of my clients are women, then there must be a new approach to it. And then obviously I tried it on myself. And so I call it women's health because it teaches women to work with yoga along their menstrual cycle. So we have different levels of energy as we go through our menstrual cycle. And so our yoga practice should be adapted to those levels of energy and not just do the same thing every day because we fluctuate.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Now, what I find fascinating is that you have expanded beyond just becoming someone who tried out yoga, practiced it for 4 years, expanded into becoming a practitioner. Now you're teaching other teachers. What do you find has been the greatest contribution of adapting not just a lifestyle, this has become your life?
Yeah.
What has been the greatest contribution that no one could have told you 16 years ago you were going to learn or experience from yoga?
Wow, that's a big
That's
one.
a big one.
Yeah.
I can give you two answers. One is from a practitioner place, which is yoga brought me incredible health, and I feel very blessed because I've been healthy. I'm nearly 40, and I've been very healthy for the last 16 years, and I think a lot of it had to do with the yoga and the lifestyle that yoga brought, which is this awareness in what you eat, in your relations, in your habits, and I think that's actually what promoted my health. And from a teacher's perspective, what brought me is this incredible satisfaction of actually helping people to find their also their path to health and their path to being themselves and honoring that in their life. And I think that's an incredible privilege that I don't think I would have that in any other work.
With 16 years of experience, you've been witness from the front line to what has become a mainstream boom of yoga.
Yeah.
And I know there are some traditional practitioners who really don't like the fusions and the changes, and that it's kind of moved away from what the original practice taught. Yeah. What are your thoughts on this now sudden growing interest? Many suspect it's because now there's the scientific data to back the benefits. Yeah. But what are your thoughts on it?
Well, I have this philosophy. Actually, people ask me this often about what do I feel, exactly what you just asked. What do I feel about this yoga becoming so fashionable?
Yeah.
And well, my thoughts are, I think as a teacher, you're always going to attract the students that are meant for you, and so I don't see a problem in the fusions of styles or the different approaches, because yoga in its nature is flexible. So I think it needs to change and morph into the different times.
Nice.
My only concern is when people are not properly trained. And they're not properly educated about the body, about the works of the mind, and then they go out and teach, and that can become a little bit dangerous for the people that they are teaching. So my message is always also to my students. They come and do these immersions, which I always tell them in the beginning, okay, you're here for a month or you're here for 3 weeks, but even you get your certification in the end saying that you're a yoga teacher, you cannot become a yoga teacher in a month. You need to keep developing, you need to keep learning. Like I learned different things about, like I went and studied nutrition and studied a lot about meditation, and so bringing different disciplines together, I think it's a good thing, but just make sure that the education is continuous.
That you're properly trained.
Yeah.
So this yoga workshop is coming up, and I'm sure you'd want for a lot of people going out there. In terms of expanding on your resume, this is your first time in Central America.
Yeah.
And I'm so touched by the fact that Belize is the first spot you've been in Central America.
Yeah.
But where else besides Portugal have you been in terms of teaching yoga?
Okay, so I'll start on the far east.
Yeah, you can start all the way over there.
I've been to Japan, I've been to India, I've been to Thailand, I've been to Indonesia. In Europe, I taught pretty much everywhere except Eastern Europe. I never taught in Eastern Europe. And I've taught I'm going to China after here for the first time as well. So this month is definitely the month of new countries.
Yeah.
And then, like I said, in Europe, I lived in Scandinavia also for a while. So I taught in Norway, Denmark, Sweden, Switzerland, Holland.
Wow.
All the way down to, to Portugal, Spain, Italy, Greece.
Yeah.
Greece I went the first time last year.
So this is your first entrance into Central America and Latin America. You spoke of wanting to open a school here or work along with a school here.
Yeah.
Why the interest in this part of the world?
My interest here is very connected with my friend, as I was saying, Michelle Williams. We went to yoga school in India 3 years ago.
Wow.
And we connected from the first moment we met, and we spent the whole month together.
Yeah.
And she was telling me a lot about Belize, and she was telling me about this project she wanted to do here, about building this charity and bringing yoga to unprivileged communities like in prisons or foster children. And so I thought that was really inspiring, and because I myself sponsor some charities as well along the countries that I travel. And so I wanted to get involved, and she's been inviting me for the last 3 years to come, but it's just not been in my path, I would say, or schedule. And this time I was like, no, I'm going to take the month of August, and I'm just going to go there and do this with her. And so we have this. So I'm going to teach in the prisons, in the women's
I was
prison.
going to say that.
Wow.
So Michelle, through Rhythm of Change, has been in the prisons and I believe the youth facilities as well, teaching yoga. And we've seen some great stories of how the women really love it.
Yeah.
So you're going to have that experience as well. What are your thoughts going into it?
Yeah, well, fortunately, in Norway, I was living there for 6 months. I was working in a project there. And one of my students have been teaching in the prison for 2 years.
Yeah.
And so she invited me to do this 3-part series, Women's Health Workshop. And so that was an incredible experience for me. And I was, okay, I want to do this again.
Yeah.
Just because of the impact that you have on these women, and so when she told me that she was doing the same here, I said I want to come. So, so that became the primary,
the final push.
Primary reason why I'm here, and then we put these other 2 workshops more for the community on the side.
So you're doing the women's health and the yoga workshop with the females at the Colby Foundation, and then you're having a public event as well. But we have to say it's already sold out.
It is.
This is not promotion. This is just finding out more.
I think it's. I'm really pleased to be so well received here, and I think I will come back and and also do repeat. So for the people that were not able to join this time, we'll do it again for sure.
So what type of yoga are you going to be teaching?
So I teach a combination of Hatha yoga and Yin yoga as well, which is much more restorative. So I'll be using both. The philosophy I use in my school comes from Oriental medicine. So we use the principles of Yin and Yang, which are like the active and passive principles. So in the morning, we do more active practices. In the afternoon, we do more restorative practice, following the principle that the morning and the sun is to stimulate, and then the afternoon and the moon is to sedate and relax. So that's the philosophy I use.
Nice. Now, you know, John was asking about what people like about yoga, and I think one of the things I commonly hear is that people, one, think it's mostly for women. There are quite a few misconceptions. One, that it's only for women. Two, that you have to be fit already to do it. And three, that it is some sort of religion or conversion that's taking place. I want to give you the opportunity, and these are usually heard everywhere, to address these main misconceptions. So let's start with the size, right? Do you have, or fitness level?
Right. Well, one of my teachers, he has this, he says this a lot, is like, people saying they don't come to yoga because they're not fit is like you don't, it's like you're dirty and you, because of that you don't want to take a bath. It's
Really?
the same thing.
Yeah.
So if you're not fit, then come to yoga because you will get fit.
Yeah.
And you get fit not just physically, you
Yeah.
get fit also mentally and emotionally
Spiritually
and
as well.
spiritually.
Yes.
Obviously
Yeah.
you grow.
Yeah.
So that's one. I think yoga is for everybody. There's no size. There's no
age.
There's no age. There's I had this student. She started doing yoga at 75,
Wow.
and she's doing great.
Yeah.
So it's really it's for human beings.
Yeah.
It's not for men or women or slim or it doesn't matter. It's really.
And the men in the practice, you're seeing more men join yoga?
Actually not.
No.
Really?
No.
Yeah.
In my school, I think it's also because I started offering these women's health workshops on the side.
Yeah.
And I think maybe the image that I put out, like the last 2 years, all my trainings have been only women.
Oh, wow.
I don't know if that represents that men are not practicing, but that's just been my
And lastly, the spirituality aspect. How do you continue to differentiate that it is not something of religion or that it has nothing to do with that?
I see it more as a lifestyle.
Yeah.
So independently, what is your religion? If you grow your awareness, if you grow your health, it has nothing to do with the religious belief. That's just the belief in yourself and into developing yourself and wanting to grow and expand. So that is not attached to any religion. I think the misconception is because yoga originated in India and carries a lot of philosophies that are very similar to Hinduism.
Yeah.
And then people think it's a religious practice, but it's not. It's a lifestyle.
One of the things that catch me was the fact that you mentioned you studied nutrition.
Yeah.
So yoga, nutrition, can you?
They go very hand in hand because as you expand that self-awareness, you also start to realize, you know, what kind of foods are you putting into your body, and that became important for me to find out more about it and then later educate people about it, because I feel that you can do all the yoga you want, but if you go home and you eat really unhealthy food, that it's kind of diminishes the energy that you just created and generated with your practice. So you want to eat in a way that enhances what you're doing in your practice, not diminishing. So.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Great. So you'll be in Belize for the 2 workshops, and you will be working with the Colby Foundation. So we really wish you the best of luck, and we appreciate you coming in to share a bit about what you have been doing.
Thank you, and thank you for having me.
All right. We're going to go ahead and take a break, and when we come back, we'll be talking about the Only in Belize promotion by Belikin. That's coming up after the break.